Hey guys, so last two videos we did were on the interaction styles. We went over the direct initiating control types, also known as the structure types and the in-charge types. We also went over the informative initiating movement types, which are the starter types, which is where I'm in. That's my interaction style. And today we're going to be talking about the see it through types, and some call them the chart the course types. Which are the direct responding movement types. So the four types that are in this interaction style category are the ISTJ, the ISTP, the INTJ, and the INFJ. So what does that mean? Why are they called the see it through types? It's because they're just obsessed with finishing absolutely everything. And I mean everything. They have a hard time starting things, but if they end up seeing what somebody else is doing, they'll take over and they'll just finish it all the way through, and they'll put all of that energy into finishing. It's kind of the opposite of the starters. We'll put all that energy into starting, and then we won't have as much energy to finish it. Well, the see it through types are basically the complete opposite. They will focus on finishing as anyone would expect them to be able to, and to do it, and they'll do it quickly and they'll do it efficiently, which is really great. I love chart the course types. I find them fantastic. ISTJs, for example, they're really focused on gathering as much knowledge as possible. They're like a walking encyclopedia, and very scholarly individuals. And most times they approach projects like processes that they need to learn, implementation of bylaws within a firm, etc. Those types of things. They'll make sure that those things are seen through, especially because of how safety oriented they are. They're always trying to guard against risk, especially in an organization, even their relationships. And that's why they like to have rules, boundaries, and standards outlined up front. Or if there are no rules, boundaries, or standards outlined, then that's not how they would start behaving in that way. ISTPs, the way they finish things like construction projects, or they'll get an idea in their head and they'll think on it and think on it and think on it for hours, days, weeks, months, and then all of a sudden they'll find randomly a piece of wood, for example, that they weren't expecting to find, and then they see it and they know that they could make whatever they had in their head to do it. So they immediately finish that entire process, and they go to their wood shop and they are completely consumed by this project. So much so that even ISTPs are often accused of being workaholics on a regular basis. In fact, all four of the see it through types are accused of being workaholics, and there's not really much that can be done about that. So the INTJ is very similar. They like to take existing designs and make them better, and then create projects or reach goals that they have for themselves. Or they adjust other people. They take on other people's goals and then turn them into their own personal goals because they've made changes to that goal and they've seen it through. INFJs do the same thing, except instead of a project-based or technology-based or systems-based thing like an INTJ would do, they're an idealist, so they focus on social change. So they're all about bringing about that social change, and whatever activity or form of activism or form of social change that they're looking for, they will absolutely go out of their way to make that happen, no matter what. To the point where they'll be so self-sacrificing they won't even sleep. Of course, INTJs do that as well, let's be honest. ISTPs kind of do that as well, but not as much. And ISTJs, usually they go out of their way to take care of themselves and have self-discipline and, get into a good sleeping pattern. But the rest of the see it through types, not so much. So let's talk about the interaction style itself for the see it through types. Direct responding movement. So they're direct just like the in-charge types, like the structure types. men of few words or women of few words. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. They're short and to the point, and they're only going to speak when it comes to being as succinct as possible and to the point. Unlike me, who's informative and will talk your face off for days, they're not really so interested in that. So much so that even like talking in text chat bothers them, because they want to just say what they mean. And then text chat often has people like me who are like, okay, well, that could be up to interpretation, and then it just causes them stress because they're not like so interested in having to explain themselves to everybody all the time. Direct oriented types and the in-charge structure types or the see-it-through types, both those interaction styles really struggle with that. And it's important that they are able to be as succinct as possible. Now, of course, if they're in a social situation where someone's initiating with them, a see-it-through type may go into their informative subconscious or their informative unconscious, depending on which one they have. And then they might go informative for a short amount of time until they lose that mental energy. But until that time, they're mostly just going to be focused on being direct, because that's their primary form of interaction, being direct in their ego, basically. And that's what they'll do. They're also responding, so this is a little different. We talked about initiating a lot. In-charge structure types as well as starter types are all about being initiating with people. But the see-it-through types are the first of the first four types of the 8 introverts, basically. And they're introverted because they're responding. It's not because they're less outgoing. I know plenty of INFJs that are extremely outgoing. I know a lot of ISTPs that are extremely outgoing based on the social situation that they're in. It has nothing to do with being outgoing. People think extroversion means outgoing. That's not true at all. Being outgoing means you're less insecure when it comes to having relationships or interacting with fellow human beings. That's what that means. So that's whether or not your inferior function, your fourth cognitive function, is developed enough to not be as insecure about that as other people, and as that can inhibit a lot of types from having good outgoing social interaction. That has nothing to do with that. It really means you're responding. So you respond, you prefer to do that because your mind is energized in that introverted state where it's like just you or you and one other person, you're able to respond to them. An extroverted situation is three's a crowd. When that happens, the introvert loses energy, right? And it's that energy loss that becomes a problem. That usually happens because they're forced to initiate. If an introvert is in a three's a crowd situation, they're introverting, and they have to initiate in order to participate in the social situation, whereas their main mode is responding, actually. Now, if they were like at a speaking a conference, and it's a Q&A form and they're responding to questions, that's different, and they can maintain their mental energy level for social situations pretty well. But otherwise, it really kind of doesn't matter, because they prefer to respond. They like it when people come to them for information. They like to be informed. I have this INTJ friend, for example. He gets upset very easily when no one talks to him, as if it's everyone's responsibility to talk to him. Before he even had a status within our group that would give him some power or responsibility or some level of importance in the eyes of the entire group that we're in, he still expected people to communicate with him about everything. And it's like, dude, it's not that important. We're not here to answer all of your questions every single day. Or we're not here to keep you informed on every little detail about what we're doing. That's just an extreme case of how responding can get out of hand, because responding types, sometimes they are liable to not communicate with anyone until someone has initiated with them, and that's an issue. So I recommend, if you have introverts, or if you have anyone who is responding with their interaction style, keep them informed. Seriously, keep them informed. It can only benefit you. Yes, it's a little bit more effort, and yes, you may want to be choosy about what kind of information you share with responding types, but if you want them to be remotely useful to you or helpful to you or have a good relationship with them, please keep them in the loop. Like, seriously, even if it seems like it's more effort, or even if it seems like it's not going to help you right now, like, don't be selfish about it and just tell them. Because the only way the introverts are going to interact with everyone else is if you actually go to them and you make that extra step and you do that little bit of extra effort and you inform them, or you talk to them, or you initiate with them. Someone's got to do it, right? And that's especially true of the see it through types. The final interaction style, which is behind the scenes, not so much, because they don't necessarily need to be informed and they like informing other people. But when you have direct and responding in the same interaction style, that means there's a lack of communication there that is just innately there. So you got to be aware of this. So make sure you are communicating with these people, even if they don't deserve it, even if you don't think it's useful, even if you don't think it's not going to help. Because I guarantee you, regardless of the result, if you put in the effort to communicate with these people, you will get better results. That's a fact. So remember that when especially for see it through types, not so much for behind the scenes, but it's especially important for see it through types. Now, regarding their final aspect of their interaction style, they're very movement oriented. So they fly by the seat of their pants, just like I do. They're very progress oriented. A see it through type can definitely work in a chaotic scenario. Things do not have to be under control for them. Sometimes they need to inject chaos to get the progress they want. Progress is everything. It doesn't have to necessarily be milestones. And if things start feeling stagnant, things are slowing down and things are stagnating, they will go crazy. And they'll even withdraw and they'll start doing something else because they're trying to chart the course. They're trying to finish what they have started. And finishing is everything to these people. So if they're trying to finish, but they're being inhibited in some way by, well, there's a lot of different ways people could be inhibited by it. Like a project slowdown, or a coworker not doing a good enough job, or something bad happening with somebody's health and they're not showing up, or all of a sudden someone has to take their kid home, or who knows. Situations get in the way that slow down progress and they'll go crazy. And sometimes if they see a pattern of progress slowing, even if it's unrelated, but progress is still slowing, they'll withdraw from the project completely, or they'll just withdraw from the relationship, or they'll just withdraw. And sometimes they jump to conclusions. All of the see it through types are at risk of doing this, but sometimes they jump to conclusions because they're not getting enough movement as quickly as they're used to or as quickly as they want, and then they just straight up leave. And it's like, well, what the hell, man? Where did you go? Like, or what are we doing here? You know? So you have to make sure that when you're working or in a relationship or handling somebody who is a see it through type, ISTJ, ISTP, INFJ, INTJ, those 4 types, make sure that you're able to produce some kind of progress or assist in progress or not inhibit them from creating progress or the progress that they need. Progress is everything. They are movement types. They need movement. If movement slows, they will go crazy and it will have adverse effects on your relationship with that person. That's a fact. So, and if you're a control type in a relationship with a movement type, you need to be willing to allow for chaos in your relationship with your movement type person, because if not, you will lose them. You can't control their behavior. You can't expect them to follow your system all the time, right? But at the same time, even movement types need control because their chaos can get them in trouble. And they need to adhere to some form of structure, some form of routine in their life in order for them to be successful. Otherwise, INTJs will be staying up till 4 and 5 in the morning all over the world, every single one of them, all the time. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. Kind of hard for them to see anything through and get any progress in their life if they're not having a regular sleeping pattern. But what INJ has a regular sleeping pattern? I don't know. I've probably maybe met one that has that's weird, but that's just how they are. It's all about, so they need that additional structure that a control type can bring. It's very healthy for them, you know, because they lack that discipline to have that sleeping pattern. Now, some people, like even Jordan Peterson, would say that that's a sign of immaturity. Okay, yeah, sure, it could be seen as a sign of immaturity, but these types, it's their natural proclivity to do that. It's not necessarily that they're mature or immature. I knew a very mature INFJ, mother of 4 children, that I went to church with when I was a little kid, and she would stay up till 4 in the morning on a regular basis, on top of having a job and raising children, and somehow she pulled it off, right? Well, she drank a lot of coffee, and then she ended up giving herself adrenal fatigue, and then she gained a whole bunch of weight because her hormones were so screwed up. Because women have a hard time producing testosterone when they have cortisol in their system, because the caffeine is in their system every 18 hours. So what are you gonna do, right? So, regardless, better decisions could be made, but any type out there, they need an ethical reason for something, they need a rational reason for something, they need a logical reason, they need some outer force of some kind. And it's with every type, to try to change their behavior from the better. That's why no one type can do it all. That's why no one type is better than the others, right? And that's the same with interaction styles. No one interaction style is better than the other. Even though starter types can't finish what they start. Even though see it through types can't start things that they finish. It's weird, but that's how we work. And that's why human beings are built for relationships with each other, so that we can partner up on tasks or projects and get things done and have mutual goals. The human race is designed for relationships. If you do not have relationships with people, that means you are a failure. Because in order for you to get anywhere in this life, you need to have relationships with people. You need to be interacting with other human beings. And that's inside your temperament and outside your temperament. And that's for all types, no matter what. All 16. So anyway, in review, so the 4 types that are the see it through types: ISTJ, ISTP, INTJ, INFJ. They are the direct, responding, movement types. Mean what they say what they mean, responding, not initiating, and they prefer movement over control. Just make sure that they got progress, and you will have a great relationship with these people. So that about sums up the see it through types. The next up interaction style, the final interaction style, is going to be behind the scenes, and that's going to be the next video. And then I'm going to do a review video, which will talk about how to use the temperaments and the interaction styles to literally type anybody, including yourself, with 100% accuracy without a freaking test. So you know 100%, okay, this person is XYZ type. And then you can start understanding their cognitive functions and having a better relationship with them. So anyway, if you found this video helpful, educational, whatnot, like and subscribe, please. Support the channel. And otherwise, leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll answer them as I always do. So I'll see you folks later. Have a good day.